It starts with two teenagers and a llama. A bright weekend afternoon at the petting zoo. The air was warm, the day unhurried, and I was doing my job the way I always did, watching over the animals, making sure guests treated them with respect. Most people come here for joy, for connection. But that day, two 16-year-olds, a boyfriend and a girlfriend, decided their version of fun was something else entirely. They found our llama, a calm, patient creature, the kind who will stand for hours chewing quietly, flicking an ear at the occasional noise. And they began antagonizing him. I gave them a warning. You might want to cut that out. Llamas spit in self-defense. They laughed, dismissed it. Teenagers sometimes have that air, the sense that adults are just background noise. And here's the thing I knew. Llama spit isn't just spit. Not the real kind. Not the kind they unleash when they feel truly threatened. The first kind is just a warning. Saliva, bad breath, unpleasant but forgettable. The second kind is something you never forget. It's green. It's vile. It clings to skin and hair, seeps into fabric, and as it dries, the smell becomes worse. I knew all that, and I decided I wouldn't tell them. The llama stayed patient at first. He took their antics with the stoicism of an old soul. And then came the first warning shot, a spray of simple saliva. The girl shrieked. The boy laughed, both brushing it off like a joke. And then they doubled down. I watched. I weighed my choices. Part of me felt protective over the animal, the quiet dignity of a creature that cannot leave, cannot choose its company. But part of me wanted to see a line drawn, wanted them to meet the consequence they had been walking toward. The llama gave them more chances than I might have. But finally, it was too much. His ears went back, his head lifted, and he summoned the deep, stomach-borne reserve of his true defense. What came out was not the harmless spit they'd seen before. It was thick, green, rancid, and it hit the girl full in the face. The change was instant. She dropped to her knees, retching, her whole body folding in on itself. The smell hit her before she even registered what it was. Her boyfriend gagged, stumbled back, and bolted toward the building I was in. She vomited onto the dirt, the llama already turning away, satisfied. And here was the moment, the one people have the most to say about. The boy reached the door, panicked, asking to come inside. I thought about that spit, how I knew, and they didn't. That the faster you wash it, the better your chances of escaping its hold. I thought about how, once it settles into your skin, it lingers, sour and cloying, like decay you can't escape. And I locked the door. I told them I didn't want that smell inside, that they would have to leave. And I watched them walk away from the farm, faces pale, clothes clinging with the residue of what they'd brought upon themselves. The next day, the phone rang. It was the girl's parents, their voices sharp with outrage. Too harsh, they said. Too cruel. They wanted to know why I would deny their daughter the chance to clean herself, why I would send her home in that state. And maybe they had a point. I knew what would happen if she didn't wash immediately. I knew the smell would sink in, that it would be hell to remove. But I also knew that the lesson, the one she and her boyfriend had been warned about, the one the llama himself had tried to teach them gently, would never fade. I can't deny that there was a measure of satisfaction in what I did, watching arrogance crumble into gagging silence, seeing a quiet creature defend himself in the only way he could. But I also can't ignore the part of me that wonders if I should have stepped in earlier, not for their sake, but for his. Llamas rarely spit at humans unless they are pushed too far. They trust us, as their caretakers, to protect them from that kind of stress. And that day, I let him carry the burden. Some who've heard this story say I did nothing wrong, that I gave them a clear warning, that they got what they deserved. Others say I crossed the line when I locked that door, that by then the punishment had been delivered, the point proven, and what came next was just spite. And I wonder, if I'd let them in, would the memory have faded faster? Would they have blamed only themselves? Or would the sting of the spit, the smell, the humiliation, have been enough without me adding my own brand of cruelty to it? I still think about the way she knelt in the dirt, hands trembling, trying to wipe it from her eyes, the way he hovered at the edge, unsure whether to touch her, the smell already making him gag. I think about how, even as they walked away, the llama had gone back to chewing, unbothered, as though none of it had ever happened. So, am I the asshole? Here's what I know. Sometimes, when you work with animals, you see the very worst of people, the casual cruelty, the boredom that turns into bullying. And sometimes you see karma land with precision. That day was both. But there's a thin line between letting life teach a lesson and taking satisfaction in someone else's suffering. And maybe I didn't just let the llama spit on them. Maybe I spit on them too. Not with my mouth, but with my choices. So I put the question to you. Was I wrong for letting them walk away like that? Or was I right to let the lesson sink in? Because I still don't know. There's something about this story that stays with you. Not because of the spit, not even because of the teenagers, but because of the moral tug-of-war at its center. Here's the truth. Consequences matter. We live in a world where cause and effect is real, and actions ripple outward whether we expect them to or not. Those teenagers got a direct and unforgettable lesson in respecting boundaries, the kind you don't forget when the smell lingers for days. But there's another truth. The way we deliver a lesson shapes how it's received. When we cross the line from consequence into cruelty, the lesson can be lost in the sting of resentment. The kids might walk away thinking less about respecting animals and more about hating the person who locked that door. It's a reminder for all of us. When we're in a position of authority, whether over people, animals, or situations, we hold the power to stop harm before it escalates, and we hold the power to decide how far is far enough when justice has been served. So here's my question to you, listening right now. If you were the one holding the key to that door, what would you have done? Would you have let them in? Or would you have let them carry the smell home, a warning they could never wash away? Let me know. Because sometimes the hardest part of these stories is deciding where the lesson ends and where our humanity begins.